What is going on, Crisis Actors? It is episode 984 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I am here with my guest co-host for the day. Introduce yourself, please.
Hey again, everybody. I'm back. It is Colonel Kurtz, or rather, I should say, Blake Lively today.
This is the Blake Lively wig.
That's right. So if you've seen me before, then you know that I'm actually a brunette. But this wig, and I should say this shirt, I don't know here. I like it because it makes my boobs look big too. But
it says Blake lied.
Yes, Blake lied. Yes, there we go. I actually have not to be inappropriate here on this family show, I have a small chest, but for some reason this thing just makes my boobs pop out. But yeah, this is the outfit that I wore when I protested Blake Lively at her premiere. And this will probably be the high point of my entire life, unfortunately. But I made headline, I was, for one brief, beautiful evening, I was headline news, cover page, front story, everything on the Daily Mail as a protester who crashed Blake Lively's premiere of A Simple Favor 2 and humiliated her, according to the Daily Mail. And so there was one, I posted this on my Twitter again yesterday, but there was one moment where I was in 3 different places on the front page of the Daily Mail. So if you looked at the Daily Mail website, you saw me on your screen 3 different places. I was the cover story, I was headline news, and then I was also breaking news or whatever. And so it was hilarious. Unfortunately, they didn't link to it didn't mention my name and didn't link to my work. So I didn't get any
no clout.
I know. But at least it was hilarious. And so this is the outfit that I wore. I actually didn't wear the wig. The wig is just to be funny, but I wore this shirt and I had a big sign and everything. So I figured, since we're talking about Blake Lively again today, I'd bring it out.
Yeah, we do have Blake Lively news to get into today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, but before we get started, guys, hit the like button on this video, this live stream, and subscribe to the channel. If you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already, please and thank you. Just a little heads up on the schedule. Remember, the schedule is usually Mary Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Colonel Kurtz has been on Tuesdays. Thursdays, we've got guests from the company in the studio, but this week we will be out of town, or I will be out of town Thursday and Friday. I've got something going on with family out in Michigan. The worst possible time to travel, considering apparently like the world's worst winter storm is apparently coming over the weekend.
We're even gonna get it here in Texas. So for people wondering why my backdrop has been different lately, I've been doing some traveling. My significant other and I have been doing some traveling. I was gonna move in with my mom for a while, but things have kind of changed. So anyway, but been doing some traveling, and so I'm very mobile here. But in Texas, we are getting the storm too. So I can only imagine how bad it's going to be in Michigan if we're going to get that in Texas.
So it's like, I guess the worst part is going to be like, we're going to be driving back through like Pennsylvania and stuff like while this is going on Sunday. So I said like the Monday show right now is hopeful. Like, I'm hoping Monday show happens, but given the travel conditions, I don't know what is going to happen with that, but assuming that, you know, the storm doesn't knock me off the face of the planet and everything works out the way it should, we should be back to our normal schedule next week with Mary Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hopefully Kurtz will be joining me on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we've got Brandon and we've got Alex in the studio. So stay tuned for all of that, guys. And I do apologize that I will be out on Thursday and Friday. You guys know I absolutely hate missing days. I love my job. I love doing this show, but obligations have come up and I will be taking care of them. So just stay tuned. We've got a bunch of stuff to get into today. Taylor Swift, she has a curated image, I would say. She's known as somebody who, she's a girl's girl. She donates to charity. She's all these good things. Well, these texts have come out in relation to Blake Lively as they kind of connect to the Justin Baldoni lawsuit that kind of show that she's perhaps not the nice girl that she's always been portrayed. In fact, she might be seen as, I guess, a mean girl in a lot of ways. We're going to go through those texts, and we're also going to talk about how they tie into Blake Lively, because now there's a whole bunch of documents coming out, I guess through Discovery, that show that executives over there at Sony were none too happy working with her. Some even going so far as to brand her a terrorist. And not just a terrorist, like an uncultured, uneducated terrorist who doesn't understand how the movie industry works. It said she didn't know what she was doing. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about Nicola Peltz. Of course, we talked about her yesterday with relation to Brooklyn Beckham, but Colonel Kurtz sent me this today, and it really does prove that you're not ugly, you're just poor.
Yes.
That's what it is. We got a 20 here from Pop Culture Junkie. Says, Brett, great thoughts on Person of Interest yesterday. You got me to consider a second rewatch. Bravo and safe travels. Yeah, I did. I put out a tweet the other day with, I finished a rewatch. Me and Olivia finally got Olivia to watch it the whole way through. Took some time. You know, it's not one of those shows you sit down and binge all 5 seasons at once. We'd watch it in increments, come back to it, watch it in increments. And I put down just a very, very scatterbrained list of like my observations, the ones that held true from my initial rewatches because I've seen it so many times and stuff like that. I also had another tweet yesterday about how Paul Walker connects to Jennifer Love Hewitt and their ability to give audiences smiles that reach all the way to their eyes, which I believe play a role in engaging audiences further. Kind of makes me think I need to create a Substack so I can word vomit everywhere my random thoughts. But thank you for that, Junkie. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and there was some good engagement on that because I think people like hearing about TV shows that they want to actually talk about, which it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot these days that people want to talk about. So, all right, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to get into. So if you are ready, Kurtz, we can go. Are you ready?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, let's get the bad news and the depressing news out of the way first then. So we have covered the case of Timothy Busfield for quite some time now. You guys know that he was in jail on very, very serious charges that involved minors. The difference is now, guys, news broke yesterday and then even more news today. Timothy Busfield has been released from jail pending trial. And the big thing here is no bail. He is free to leave the state, which tells you everything what this judge felt about the case going forward. This article was from TMZ. It says, Timothy Busfield is a free man, at least for now, after his lawyers had the prosecutor on the ropes arguing the whole case was rooted in revenge by angry parents. That's what it's really boiling down to. What it looks like right now is it's being framed as a case of revenge on behalf of the parents, the mother of these children that made these claims, because he somehow had a role in having them removed from the series The Cleaning Lady, which is where all this news came from in 2022. I still wonder how much actual input a director has in the casting and creative side of a television show. That's far more the purview of a film director, but we'll go through it because the thing is those claims were made before, but now there is apparently evidence from an actual worker on set who heard her saying that. So it's not just a claim being made by Busfield. This is something that's corroborated by a security guard that heard her statements firsthand. So it says, as we reported, Busfield has been charged with crimes against minors involving 2 boys who were part of the cast of The Cleaning Lady. Busfield's lawyer, Amber Feyerberg, went line by line addressing each accusation in the criminal complaint. She brought up the recording of an officer interviewing one of the boys in the audio, which was first obtained by TMZ, in which the child volunteers that Busfield never touched him inappropriately. Feyerberg went on to highlight that it would have been virtually impossible for Busfield to have interacted alone with the children, citing the boys' on-set teacher and several witnesses who were there regularly who said they saw no such misconduct. Well, I mean, anybody can claim they saw nothing. That's not really what it's about. But the point is, that is a very good question about chronologically in timeline, where is this supposed to have happened? Right? Because there's only so many hours in a day that they're on set. Where would a crime like this, how would it actually take place and where? Like, what are the actual logistics of something like that? And if that wasn't all, Feyerberg addressed what the prosecutor actually put in the criminal complaint, that an actress on set said the mother of the boys told her if her kids were fired, she vowed revenge against Busfield. Both children were not brought back for the final season. His defense team pointed out that the father of the 2 boys, identified in the state's motion for pretrial detention as Ronald Rodis, is a disbarred attorney. He was convicted of federal conspiracy and wire fraud, pleading guilty in 2016. I don't know what that has to do with these claims. Like, the dad being a scoundrel doesn't really necessarily make the claims untrue. I guess it could call into the character of the parents, I suppose. Does that seem like something, does it seem relevant to you?
Well, I guess if If we find out that the parents were really pushing this,
Yeah.
and by pushing it, I mean, is this, I understand that the allegations were originally reported to the police by a doctor that
Yes,
that
correct.
one or more of the parents took the kids to. Now, if we find out that this was originating from the kids without the parents really pushing it,
Mhm.
that's one thing. But if we find out that the parents really pushed, then I would say that their character, particularly if there is a history of behaving in a deceitful way for financial reasons,
Yeah.
I do think that it's not conclusive, but I do think that it factors in. I think back to the Michael Jackson situation, and a lot of people who are not educated about that situation are going to probably freak out when I say this, but in hindsight, it does appear that Michael Jackson was probably innocent of those allegations. And I remember that one of his accusers, in fact, actually more, I think maybe two of his accusers, it came out that the parents had made false allegations about other celebrities in the past and had tried to basically rope other celebrities into paying them money. And it's like Chris Tucker, I believe, had been involved in a scam with one of the accuser's parents.
Okay.
And so, in a situation like that, if you can see that there's a history of false allegations trying to rope in celebrities for big payouts, that certainly matters. Now, if the father in this case had done some shady financial dealings of a different kind, maybe less important. I will say this: I have, as you know, I have spent a lot of time on my channel defending men against what I believe were Me Too hoaxes.
Mhm.
Case in point here with the Blake Lively situation, Johnny Depp, Marilyn Manson. And my default position will always be innocent until proven guilty. And that applies even to allegations made pertaining to possible child abuse.
I
And
mean, so
so,
the story about was it Razorfist did like an extensive video
mhm.
about Michael Jackson that rebukes those claims.
Yeah, and a number of people have, and I believe even Andy Signore at Popcorn Planet has covered this some as well. Michael Jackson, look, he's a difficult guy to defend because he openly admitted that he likes to share his bed with children, and to 99.99% of people, that's going to be a giant red flag. And I'm not saying it's not,
No, it's a
but
huge red flag.
yeah, but it is possible too. It is possible for some people like Jackson to just be extremely eccentric. And so, and the thing is, again, Michael Jackson's accusers, it eventually, if you look into it, it came out that that the parents involved who were pushing this stuff were deeply unethical, had a history again of false allegations and of trying to rope in celebrities. The Busfield situation, I really don't know what to think, but I will. But if it is true that someone on set overheard the mother of these boys saying that she was going to go after Busfield
Mhm.
if her kids got excluded from this production. To me, that's a like whole whoa full stop on this,
So
right?
here's that claim. So it says a former crew member of Busfield on the set of The Cleaning Lady is coming to his defense, slamming the accusations the director abused, the children. According to new court documents obtained by TMZ, Christopher Ford, a veteran Hollywood security guard, said he attended a lunch in, is it Corrales, New Mexico? Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I do apologize. Somebody got mad at me for how I said Ocala the other day as well.
Deal with it.
Yeah, I know, right? He attended a lunch in Corrales, New Mexico, after filming season 3 of The Cleaning Lady in March of 2024, and the mother of the two boys was present. Says Ford claims the mom got pissed while discussing whether her kids would return to the show, saying that she would get Timothy Busfield and, quote, have his ass if her boys were not brought back for the next season. Ford confirms he personally heard the remark, claiming it was made before any formal complaint of inappropriate conduct had been filed with the authorities. Police say Busfield replaced the two boys with another person who had auditioned. In addition, Ford says that the children's parents were always present whenever their kids were working, and says he observed the dad frequently encouraging them to hug people on set, including Busfield, in full view of others. He also said that he never witnessed Busfield alone with the children. Well, of course, because if he was alone with the children, the guy wouldn't be there, so that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Adding that there was no realistic opportunity for private contact because other people were always visible on or in earshot. Ford goes on to say that all interactions between Busfield and the child actors took place in open areas of the set surrounded by cast, crew, and parents. So, I mean, this must have been convincing enough for a judge to release him without bail. I mean, you'd think for somebody of his means, his wealth, that bail would be the minimum and restrict him to the state.
Yeah, again, perhaps the judge feels like evidently there's a compelling reason to cut this guy some slack. And I will say also that if people are not familiar with how many false allegations there are against celebrities, they might be skeptical of Busfield's claims of innocence. But again, my channel has mostly devoted itself to exposing hoaxes of this nature. Now, I've not really gotten into situations involving kids so much, but again, Me Too claims, and what I have said, and I'll continue to say this, is that in my opinion, at least 80%, perhaps 90% of claims against celebrities, I think, are hoaxes because the incentives are just too high for disreputable people to make false allegations in the hopes of getting a quick payout, because most of the time celebrities will pay. Now, in this case, I know that we're not yet talking about a civil suit, but I'm sure that's on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So it says New Mexico is a no bond state. Established by a constitutional amendment that prohibits cash bail for low-risk defendants, allowing release without payment while empowering judges to detain high-risk or dangerous individuals. So I guess is that just a claim that the judge is apparently not in any way, the judge is saying that he is not dangerous in any way? The other thing that's the fallout to all of this is the actor is now being edited out of more things than just the Law and Order episode that he was in. He's also being edited out of an MGM series that he was in. I mean, granted, nobody watches MGM Plus, which is, I'm assuming, what it said that this was at. I don't know anybody who actually has MGM Plus, but it says sources familiar with the production confirmed to Deadline that the Field of Dreams actor would be edited out of the film. Following his Me Too allegations, a role played by Timothy Busfield in the upcoming Amazon Studios rom-com You Deserve Each Other has been edited out in wake of the allegations filed against the actor. Filming was completed, Deadline learned, so Busfield's role as Bernie, father to one of the other characters, had already been shot. No release date for the film has been set, so they've edited him out entirely. And the truth of the matter is we may never know whether these allegations are true or not, but we absolutely know that his career is likely to never be the same again.
Yeah, and if he is innocent, that's very unfortunate. And I really wish that people would get in the habit or in the mindset of assuming innocence. There is a reason why our founding fathers and the founders of modern jurisprudence believed that innocence should be our default position. And it's because in those cases, and I would argue with celebrities, they happen very often, in those cases where people are innocent, assumptions can ruin your life. And if Timothy Busfield is innocent, he should have his career back, but you're right, he probably won't. And that's unfortunate if that's the case.
Well, the thing about Michael Jackson is one of those cases. He's the rare example where I think he's so beloved by so many people that he's one of those early examples of people who are like, I'm just not going to look into it because I don't want it to ruin my opinion of him. Like I don't want to look into it because I don't want to not be able to listen to his music without thinking about it. And I think that's how a lot of people who approach pop culture in a more passive sense, they just don't want to think about it. They don't. They want to enjoy what they're watching, and they want to kind of be free of the burden of whether or not this person was a good person or not.
And I'm okay with that, honestly. Even in a case when someone's guilty, I'm okay with people in their minds separating the art from the artist, because the truth is, if you were to look into some of you in the general sense, right, the audience, if the audience members were to right now name me 10 of their famous classic actors or classic rock stars from the past, I guarantee you, if we looked into their backgrounds, we would find that a significant number of them have done really shady stuff. I'm not talking about necessarily what Timothy Busfield is accused of, but I'm saying, this is something that comes up sometimes when we talk about classic rock. Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, and this is something that is just basically common knowledge now. I think he's even admitted to it, but at one point he had a 13-year-old lover. Now, a groupie. Now, do I think that that's okay? Do I endorse that? No, but I'm saying that there are, Alfred Hitchcock abused some of his leading ladies, at least Tippi Hedren probably. I'm just saying you can tick through. Sean Connery beat the shit out of his wife. His first wife. It becomes selective.
It becomes selective enforcement. People some people get it, some people don't, and there's never really an understanding as to why that is.
Right.
All right, let's move on. You should give everybody the lowdown on what is going on with Ronnie Radke.
Well, you know what? I had never, because I'm not a big music aficionado. I did not know who Ronnie Radke was prior to his recent collaboration with Marilyn Manson. And so, as some people might know, if they follow this, Ronnie Radke, rock star, very popular group. He collaborated with Marilyn Manson on a song that came out in the past year, a music video, and then also they recently appeared on stage at a rock festival. And so that was my introduction to Ronnie Radke. But he has been involved now for the past, I'd say, 6 months or so, maybe longer, with a pretty hilarious situation with Tommy Lee's wife. Now, for people who don't know, Tommy Lee, we're talking about the Motley Crue drummer, used to be married to Pamela Anderson, famous sex tape and everything, right? Well, he has been married now for a while to, gosh, I don't know, was she like his fifth or sixth wife, to Brittany Furlan?
That sounds about right for the rock stars, right? 5 or 6 sounds right.
Exactly. Well, for Tommy Lee, especially a ladies' man. I also married to Heather Locklear for a while, but he's been married to Brittany Furlan. She is a former Vine, there's a blast from the past, a former Vine superstar. I think she was the most watched female comedian, content creator on Vine for a while before that went defunct. And she's very attractive. It looks like she's had a lot of plastic surgery, but whatever. So's everybody nowadays, right? But she's an extremely attractive younger woman. And she and Tommy Lee were supposedly in a happy marriage together. But what happened was 6 months or so ago, Brittany Furlan, Tommy Lee's wife, was catfished by someone pretending to be Ronnie Radke. In other words,
somebody called this reverse catfishing because it's like reverse racism, right? Otherwise, they think that women are the only ones catfishing people. So they're referring to this as reverse catfishing.
Yes, yes, I like that. And that's very true. So someone pretending to be Ronnie Radke contacted Brittany Furlan, I guess slipped into her DMs or whatever. And Brittany Furlan, again, Tommy Lee's wife, believed that she was speaking to Ronnie Radke. And apparently they started up an online romance, if you will. I don't know how much sexting was actually involved or what level of exchanges we're talking about here. But she developed a crush on this fake Ronnie Radke that she thought was really Ronnie Radke.
Faux Radke.
Faux Radke.
Yes.
And apparently it was significant enough that Brittany Furlan, it hurt her marriage to Tommy Lee. Apparently she was wanting to have an actual affair with Ronnie Radke. Well, this is then where things went even more awry, because apparently Brittany contacted the real Ronnie Radke. And I guess I wonder why he was using different accounts. I guess maybe she thought, well, this is his private account that I've been talking to. So anyway, she contacts the real Ronnie Radke and tries to continue, in her mind, this romantic relationship and take it to the next level. And so she contacted him, was trying to initiate, I guess, a meetup or dates or something. Well, Ronnie Radke, who has a girlfriend, by the way, Ronnie Radke is getting these messages from Tommy Lee's wife, and he's like, what's going on here?
This lady's crazy.
Exactly. And so it got to the point where he felt stalking him. Yeah. And so he goes public, basically. This thing becomes public. And at that point, Brittany Furlan then realizes that she has been catfished. She has not been talking to Ronnie Radke, or at least for a time she seemed to realize it. Now apparently she's gone back on that, and she's still convinced that Ronnie Radke secretly has a thing for her, or has been secretly encouraging this. Well, so anyway, Ronnie Radke. So this thing busts open. It becomes public. And first of all, it causes problems in her relationship with Tommy Lee, because Tommy Lee now realizes, well, hey, my wife must not be that committed to me if she's been having these romantic texts with this Ronnie Radke catfish or whatever.
He's still with her?
He's still with her. Oh, yes.
Man.
They both claim now, they've talked about this publicly. They both claim that they went through a rough patch, but they've worked it out. Isn't that heartwarming to everyone?
Oh, love never dies.
Well, I mean, we want people to, marriage is supposed to be tough. You're supposed to stick it out through the rough times, right? So
through
apparently,
the catfishing and the cheating, apparently.
So anyway, so it apparently, though, it really has taken Brittany Furlan a long time. Yep. That she was being catfished, and apparently she's not totally accepted it, because recently Ronnie Radke now has filed a restraining order against Brittany Furlan, claiming that she has continued to, in his words, harass her. She's continued to contact him. She can't let go, apparently, of, according to Radke, cannot let the dream die, cannot let go of this hope, this fantasy that he actually was sending texts to her, that he actually was encouraging this. So he's filed a restraining order against her. Also brought Marilyn Manson's wife into this just a little bit. As you know, Marilyn Manson has been married for a while, has a longstanding, very supportive wife named Lindsay Usage. Well, apparently Ronnie Radke and his girlfriend had become friends with Marilyn Manson and his wife, because, again, they'd been artistically collaborating. And so Ronnie Radke said publicly that he had been laughing. He had been sharing these texts from Tommy Lee's wife with Marilyn Manson's wife, and they'd all been basically laughing at her. And so the irony here of Marilyn Manson's involvement is that, gosh, this is like 6 degrees of separation, but apparently Ronnie Radke's girlfriend, whose name is Dana Dentata, I think that's like a goth reference to vagina dentata or whatever, but vagina with teeth. But Dana Dentata used to be best friends with one of Marilyn Manson's accusers named Gabriella. And so who apparently later privately recanted her allegations, but I guess didn't have the courage to publicly recant them. Isn't it interesting how that happens, right? But anyway, apparently though, so Ronnie Radke, you've got this crazy, like almost inbred situation in a way where Ronnie Radke's girlfriend was best friends with a former Marilyn Manson accuser. And so anyway, the whole thing just gets more and more ridiculous. But yes, that's where things stand right now. Brittany Ferland, she cannot let go of the dream, cannot let go of the fantasy that Ronnie Radke wants her. Ronnie Radke's had enough. And not only has he filed a restraining order against her, but he also made a music video with his band publicly ridiculing Tommy Lee's wife.
So the funny thing is, so in the chat right now, I saw Destroyer to All Trolls says, how unusual. Usually it's a woman who files a restraining order against a man. Actually, they both did. They have now both filed.
Oh, Brittany Ferland has done one too?
Yes, they've now both filed restraining orders against one another. So it's just, it seems like such an absolutely 2025, it's the most internet situation you could possibly ever imagine yourself in these days. And celebrities love this type of stuff because it gets them all the press in the world over the most ridiculous things.
Absolutely.
And it
does.
Feels like it falls right into that world of just they're acting like bad people, they're acting messed up. It's reality TV without it actually being on a network, and you just wonder, like, how does somebody end up in that situation and still be in a relationship? Like, Radke makes sense, right? Because assuming that he's not lying and that they weren't actually, because I saw her tweet or her post was like, she said she couldn't be lying because of the explicit nature of their correspondence. Which am I supposed to assume that means like he was sending
sexting?
Or dick pics or something like that. Like, okay, well, I don't know if any of that is true, but assuming that he's not lying, him and his girlfriend staying together makes perfect sense. Her and Tommy Lee staying together is just like, man, you're just messed up and codependent at that point.
Well, exactly. And I will say this. I know that even aging rock stars can get a lot of ass, but Tommy Lee is well over the hill. And even with whatever plastic surgery interventions he's had, I don't think that he's much to write home about. And so Brittany Ferland, I mean, she's had a lot of work done, more power to her, but she is a very, very attractive woman. And she's gotten I think she got another recent boob job because it looks like she's got like a size G or something going on with the chest there. So
it's like like Brianna Chicken Fry and was it Zach Bryan or whoever, and their relationship like fell apart in public. And she like turned down like a multi-million, I think it was Zach Bryan. I don't think it was Zach Brown. I think it was Zach Bryan. And she turned down like a multi-million-dollar settlement so that she could go and complain about him on a podcast. And it ended up being a nothing burger that nobody remembers.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking with Tommy Lee is that maybe even though his wife has done some shady stuff and apparently was looking to tree branch, or what do they call it? Monkey branch or whatever. Okay. I guess that he has estimated, he's done the math and he's thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a woman this hot at my age again. So maybe he's just decided he's just going to put up with it and he's going to have to deal with some of this craziness. I don't know.
How old is he?
I think I want to say late 50s. I'll look it up right now.
Oh, come on. He's in his 50s. That's nothing
but he's
days.
Looking rough.
But he's a rock star, so he hit 50.
63. Okay. No, I'm sorry, 63.
So 63 as a rock star, especially if you lived the rock star life, means it's 63 the hard way. which means that you're not looking like the 60-year-old who grew up pampered and, didn't live, the rock and roll lifestyle on the road. Right?
Right. And I'll say this too. I mean, Tommy Lee has a history of very tempestuous relationships. He might be one of those people that likes to have a little drama. I mean, look, it's possible that Ronnie Radke's actually, all of this has spiced up his sex life with Tommy Lee's sex life. I mean, maybe they have like jealous hate sex or something.
Probably.
I don't know.
You said tempestuous. Maybe did you watch?
Yes.
What was it? 10 Things I Hate About You recently? There's the line in 10 Things I Hate About You.
I have not. It's been a while since I've seen that. But I just know, so I do know that that sexual arousal and anger, that basically they involve the same sort of physical scenarios in terms of brain and body chemistry, which is why, hate sex is a thing and makeup sex is a thing and stuff, and why people who
toxic
are in really
couples stay together.
Yeah, which is, I mean, look, the toxic cycle is real, and I think that we've all known people, whether personally in our own relationships or friends that we've known, who, yes, they have horrible knockdown drag out fights that suck, but then the romance that follows that, the honeymoon period, even in an abusive cycle, it's a real thing. So maybe Tommy Lee, he is a self-declared, I believe, sex and romance addict. Maybe this
good
is
for music. Good for if it means you can write good music. I mean, everybody has at least one friend who was always in a toxic relationship.
Right.
They were the couple that no matter what party you were at, they were arguing. And you never understood how they spent any time together, because anytime they were out in public, usually coinciding with alcohol.
Right.
Like, they just seemed like they hated each other. And you're like, what is going on in your brain that is what you seek out in the world? Because I can't relate with that.
Yeah, well, and I don't think that that's probably your attachment style, knowing you and Olivia as I do, but there are people who really thrive on that, and it's not something that I understood when I was younger, but having seen a lot of relationships and been in, and been in relationships where I've had some tempestuous times, I will say that there's a definite other side of that cycle that is very romantic, and and again, sexual arousal and anger, it triggers the same kinds of like adrenal responses and stuff. So yeah.
A lot of people don't know that you actually you stream with Olivia sometimes.
Yes, people should check out her channel. So Olivia started a new channel several weeks ago. We've covered mostly just Candace Owens, the Candace Owens saga. But I know Olivia's branching out, and we're gonna be starting a regular show pretty soon. But people should definitely check out Olivia's channel, Olivia Dasovic. Check it out.
And you guys will watch you will watch the Candace Owens streams and comment.
Yes, we have done that on a few of them. I don't like to do it too much because I don't want to get a YouTube strike.
Yeah.
I think there was someone who was regularly streaming Candace's stuff, and actually they ended up having their stream barred, or YouTube revoked their stream approval. So you don't want to do that stuff too much. But yeah, we definitely covered some of Candace's funniest moments. The thing is I used to love Candace's coverage of the Blake Lively situation. And so it was frustrating for me to see the turn that Candace has taken with the Macron situation, yes, but also primarily with the Erica Kirk TPUSA situation. Not that I'm a big fan of Erica Kirk, but it's been frustrating to see the turn Candace has taken, because I thought that she did great work when it came to the Blake Lively Baldoni situation. But
yep. All right, we gotta do. Remember, guys, because when Mary would, when I would be gone, Mary would not do cute of the day, and that doesn't give for me. That doesn't take for me. I need to make sure that your guys' pets are featured on this show. We need we need like a pet food sponsorship on here. I will do ad reads for some type of pet food. I think everybody would love that. This one here is from Rusty the Reckless Optimist, which is a fantastic username, by the way. It says, here's my two boys, Felix, the all-gray one, and Merlin, the couple rabble-rousers. Well, this one here looks like our cat, Chloe, me and Olivia's cat, Chloe, and this one looks very judgmental of you right now. It looks like it's questioning your life choices right this moment. I like it. And then I got this one. I had to show this one today. This is Dash, and he just turned 3 years old. This is from John on X, and that is a very happy looking dog to have just turned the age of 3.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's happy.
All right, guys, make sure you can. So I've got a post up with a picture of Toast. that was asking for you guys to send pictures of your pets. But if you want to send a separate one, tag me on X at Brett Dasovic and use the hashtag PCC Pets, and we will get them featured on here. I know everybody loves to brag about their pets. At least I would assume that everybody does. So let's move on, guys. We got a whole bunch of stuff to get into today. Let's talk about Taylor Swift. So, yes, we will. So Taylor Swift has a very curated image. She is a girl's girl. She gives tons of money to charity. She's kind to her workers. She gives them bonuses. She's been held down by the music industry because they tried to steal her masters. But I think what we've known all along, and what I've always tried to point out, is that you don't get to that level of success without being a ruthless businessman. Now, part of being a ruthless businesswoman in this case, and to get there, you have to curate an image. And these text messages that have been revealed with her and Blake Lively help shatter that image of her as a girl's girl, goody two shoes, and put into a clearer focus that she is in fact a mean girl. Correct?
Yes, I mean that's what it seems to me. And look, I know that Taylor Swift, she's great to her fans. I know that she's great to the people who work for her. I know that she hands out $100 bills to menial workers at movie theaters where her tour show premiered. I don't doubt all of these things, but I do think that she has this mean girls feminist streak. And I think she is very wedded to the idea of modern victim feminism, which people need to understand. I don't like either side of the coin. I hate modern victim feminism, and I also hate the angry manosphere. And by the way, some of my viewers and followers who loved my anti-Me Too stuff, who loved my coverage of the Johnny Depp situation and Manson and all these Me Too hoaxes, have been surprised to see me speaking out against the manosphere. But I don't like the angry manosphere either. And I think that the angry manosphere is in a lot of ways just as off the mark as the modern victim oriented feminism. But Taylor Swift is very wedded to the modern Me Too victim oriented feminism, and she's very also wedded to the idea that she's been oppressed as a woman in the music industry, which is complete BS. And so anyway, this should not be a surprise. And
do you have the text pulled up there? Let's make sure. Let's read. So it says Taylor texted Blake in early 2024 referencing Baldoni and the upcoming New York Times hit piece, with Taylor texting, "I think this bitch knows something is coming because he's got out his tiny violin." And it's that type of language which just runs contrary to how she's attempted to be perceived. But it actually does. I made the comment. I said, I listened to her new album, and I skimmed her new album. Let's be honest. But I said the song Canceled, which is, of course, basically about Blake Lively.
It is. Well, and let me say, people
it felt
denied
the most real to me.
Well, people, I'm glad you brought up Canceled, because let me say this. Some of Taylor Swift's defenders have tried to tell me and others that Taylor Swift was just being a good friend when she sent Blake Lively that text, and when she tried to support Blake. She didn't just send her a text, by the way. Taylor Swift bullied Justin Baldoni. She ambushed him at Blake Lively's penthouse,
which her PR team claimed was not true, and that she was surprised when she showed up there. She's like, "Oh, how did I get here? I don't know what's going on." So again, that's what I'm saying. These were PR maneuvers.
They were. And some of her defenders and fans have tried to claim that she did not know the situation, that Blake Lively was manipulating her just like she was manipulating everyone. Well, maybe, except you mentioned the song Canceled. Taylor Swift's latest album includes a song Canceled, which supports Blake Lively and ridicules Justin Baldoni, and actually uses the same reference to the tiny violin. It's clearly a reference to Baldoni. So here's my position on this. Let's say that Taylor Swift was manipulated by Blake and didn't know what was going on in 2024. Well, she has had plenty of time to figure out the truth of the situation now that so much has been exposed through these dueling lawsuits and in the media and online. And so for her, on her latest album, to still include that song Canceled, defending Blake Lively, supporting Blake Lively, and basically attacking Justin Baldoni, that to me is unacceptable. It's one thing to say, well, she didn't know what was going on and she really thought maybe the guy was abusive because that was the BS that her BFF was sending her, was giving her at that time. Well, perhaps so, but the woman has had plenty of time to learn about the truth. I guarantee you her team has learned about the truth. I guarantee you they've been following all the twists and turns of this. She would not have included that song Canceled in her latest album if she were not still supporting Blake Lively. So there's no excuse in my mind for Taylor Swift and her support of Blake Lively and her bullying of Justin Baldoni anymore. There's just no excuse.
Do you think that Baldoni makes himself a target because he seems like the worst type of Hollywood male feminist?
Well, I think that, look, there were references in the latest round of text disclosures with this discovery process. There were references made to Baldoni being in a cult. In other words,
he's the Baha'i religion, which
Baha'i religion, which in my estimation is not a cult, does not meet anyone's definition of a cult. And if you look into it, it's basically a universalist religion anyway. They don't even preach exclusivity. But Blake Lively referred to it as a cult. I believe Jenny Slate referred to it as a cult. Others refer to it as cult. And here's the thing: it is the Baha'i faith. It is very touchy-feely, and not in a bad way, but in a sense of being, it's very like emotive.
But the problem is he's part of Hollywood, where that type of feeling tends to come with a very, very dark underbelly.
Bingo. People don't know how to take a genuinely spiritual guy in Hollywood, and I think that that's where this breaks down. Some of this is broken down is because Justin Baldoni and the production company Wayfarer that he was working with and for and heading up, that was producing this film, I think that the mistake that they made was they were too sincere. They were coming at this production from a deeply spiritual and deeply emotional and deeply, I think, kind perspective and genuine perspective. And that is the opposite of what Hollywood is. And it's the opposite of what Blake Lively is.
So
and I think
she's very type A. And she gets what she wants. It seems like she gets what she wants.
Right.
And he's very touchy-feely, and can't we all just get along? Hollywood is not the industry you work. Okay, you can be an actor and be the weird guru-esque touchy-feely person, I guess. Like, look at
and when we say, by the way, I just want to say, when we say touchy-feely, it's probably the wrong choice of words, because I'm not talking about like literally, but in the sense of someone who is very spiritual, hippie, like basically kind of neo-hippie, right? Peace, love, and all that, man. And that, I just don't think that Blake Lively, and I don't think a number of these other people, Hollywood people, I don't think that they know how to take that. They assume that there must be some kind of darker hidden agenda. And in Blake Lively's case, I think she just wanted to take over the film, and she was pissed that she couldn't. Right?
I don't think she had necessarily a hidden agenda outside of the very blatant agenda of taking over the production. And here's the thing: he was a producer on this film. Being the hippie-esque guy can work if you're just being an actor, but to be a producer in Hollywood, you have to be a shark. To be an executive in Hollywood, you can't run on emotion. You have to run on numbers. You have to run on getting your way. And a lot of times that means doing so at the expense of other people. Nobody who reaches the level of a Ryan Reynolds gets there by being Mr. Nice Guy to everybody. Now, there might be some who kind of hold that image. Taylor Swift is an example of somebody who's cultivated aspects of that image. But you can assume that if somebody reaches that level of success, that zenith, on the back end, meaning not the acting or the singing side, but on the producing side, on the money side, that they have screwed a few people over in their day. Or at the very least, they've conducted some business that left somebody else wanting more, even if it wasn't necessarily screwing them over.
Right. You have to be tough. You have to probably be a little bit Machiavellian. And so you had, I think you had really here, in part, a kind of a culture clash, but you then also had someone with Blake and Ryan Reynolds. And I think now we're seeing Taylor Swift. You had some people who were very much manipulators. And so I think that what's happened with Baldoni is that he was basically like a lamb to the slaughter. He was going into this production wide-eyed and innocent and kumbaya, and he was going up against some sharks. And so and by the same token, these sharks didn't know what to make of someone who was actually genuine. They're always looking, people like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and maybe to also Taylor Swift, they're always looking for the angle. Like, so they had this, so here they are, they're with this nice guy who's wanting to hug, and he's like, let's talk about our backgrounds and let me tell you my personal stories and all of that. And instead of seeing it as genuine, they're like, what's this dude's angle here?
I don't even know if it's that. I think to that type type of person, that type of earnestness probably revolted them.
I totally agree.
I would imagine that they actually found it revolting.
Yes,
I think
they see it as weakness.
Look,
as
and
gross.
I don't know if he is that way. I am automatically skeptical of everyone in Hollywood. So all things considered, I don't know if he's actually a good guy. But I know that if it wasn't a veneer and it was something that he actually embodies, that they probably were grossed out by it. It also includes that Taylor Swift was anything but an innocent bystander who was set up by Blake during the infamous NYC penthouse showdown with Baldoni. In fact, Taylor seemed to be involved in Blake's strategy, texting Blake, if Justin was strategic, he would be like, no Taylor Swift in the trailer because that gives you more power over the film. That's your ally, not his. In Lively's deposition, she said, I sent Taylor the script on her way to my apartment because Justin was still there and I asked her to read them. I told her she didn't have to. I didn't want her to feel pressure to do that, but I hoped that she would. Taylor responded in text, I'll do anything for you. Taylor endorsed the revised draft. Now we're seeing that she could be called as a hostile witness if this case ends up going to trial, because his lawsuit was already dismissed. Now we're facing down the Blake Lively lawsuit against him, correct?
Yes. So his lawsuit was dismissed, and that is no indication of its lack of merit. If for people who don't know this, California and New York and his lawsuit was dismissed in New York, but also it had some associations with California as well. But California and New York are two extremely hostile places to file a defamation lawsuit, particularly if we're talking about sexual harassment claims. And so it is almost impossible to do what Baldoni was trying to do, which is to sue someone for defaming you based on allegations of sexual harassment. And it's just almost impossible. I mean, other people that I've covered, Marilyn Manson, his also dismissed. And then Johnny Depp, he didn't even try to file a defamation claim in California, even though that would have been the most logical place. His team decided to file in Virginia because Virginia was one of the few states at that point that did not have these kinds of restrictions or these kinds of biases against defamation lawsuits related to sex stuff. So I just want people to understand that Baldoni's lawsuit getting dismissed really means nothing in terms of the merits of the case. But yes, what we're left with now is Blake Lively's lawsuit against Baldoni, and it is going to, unless there's a settlement, it is going to go to trial in May. And so that's why a lot of this stuff is coming out as a part of the discovery process. One more thing as well. It's come out also that Blake Lively, and we'll talk about this in relation to Sony in a minute, that Blake Lively wanted to have her own edited cut of the film be released as the cut of the film, and whereas the director, Justin Baldoni, he had his own cut, and his own cut tested much higher with test audiences than Blake Lively's did, and still because of all of her manipulation and threats and maneuverings, hers was the one that ended up being released. And she, in some of these released texts to people, she's incensed at the fact that Baldoni and his team were trying to push out his cut of the film. Well, lady, he's the director. She even complained in one of her texts to Jenny Slate or someone else that Baldoni was spending too much time in the editing room. Sweetheart, you should not even have been in the editing room. You are an actress. And by the way, people can go to my channel and they can look at an interview I did with the former head of Amazon Studios, Roy Price. It's the main video on my channel. And I asked Roy Price, former head of Amazon Studios, he's produced a lot of films. I asked him flat out, is it unusual for an actress to be in the editing room or for an actress to be trying to take control of the editing process like Blake Lively did? And he said that it's almost unheard of. So Blake Lively was the one overstepping her role on the film, and yet because of her ego, she believed that Baldoni, the director, should have been taking a back seat to her in the production and editing process. Completely insane.
Yep, that's a good point. Let's move over then. Let's talk about how Blake Lively was branded a effing terrorist by the executives over at Sony. Tell us about this.
Well, so a lot of what was going on with this whole controversy was that Blake Lively was also trying to manipulate and threaten Sony into forcing Baldoni to release Blake's version of the film, and into forcing Baldoni to basically hand over seed control of the film to Blake. And so you had Sony actually in this really uncomfortable position of recognizing that Blake was the problem, but of being so terrorized by Blake and so threatened by Blake that they had to play nice and they had to go along with this and pretend. And so I think what you're referring to here is that there have now been released in this discovery process conversations between Sony executives about what a nightmare Blake Lively was and how, yes, she was terrorizing them with her demands and her threats pertaining to this movie because she wanted to basically be the de facto director, the de facto, she wanted to be the editor, she wanted to be the costume designer. I mean, she interfered with multiple people's roles on this film. I want people to understand it wasn't just Baldoni, it wasn't just his team. The costume designer was annoyed by her. The editors were annoyed by her and terrorized by her. So, and then as it turns out, the producers were.
Yeah, so it says a senior producer on It Ends With Us branded Blake Lively an effing terrorist over her 17-point list of demand to return to the set of the movie. Her name was, is it Andrea Giannetti? Used harsh descriptions of the actress in court documents seen by the Daily Mail after she unveiled her requirements in November of 2023, possibly sabotaging the entire project. Giannetti said that the production of the film was an effing shit show, and that Lively thought the film's director, who also co-starred, was unprepared, indecisive, and inexperienced. Like I said, I believe that she saw all of those things in him because of his personality, and I guarantee you it made her feel nothing but disgust towards him.
Yes, because people who are manipulators like Blake Lively, they do not, they see kindness, they see appeasement only as weakness. It's kind of like thinking about Hitler and Chamberlain, right? Neville Chamberlain.
I will say, though, like it says, according to Lively, Baldoni was too sensitive and took criticism to heart too easily. That is something you need to get over if you're going to be a creative in Hollywood. I mean, from everything that I saw, it said that he seemed to acquiesce to her requests, her creative requests at every turn. But in general, when you're in that process, it's almost like the roles are reversed. It's like when men and women, when they talk about men versus women directors in Hollywood tend to focus on collaboration, whereas male directors focus on the vision and getting out what is supposed to be put on page and getting it done the way they need to get it done. It's a singular vision. And a director in a lot of ways needs to be dictatorial oftentimes because they're on a budget. They've got tons of people that they answer to, the ones who hold the purse strings for everything, and they will argue with you and people will fight back and forth, and then they will just kind of get over it. It was like there was a behind the scenes thing that showed like James Gunn and David Corenswet on the set of Superman, where David Corenswet asked something and James Gunn basically told him to shut the fuck up. Like, we're working right now, shut the fuck up. And he's like, he didn't take it to heart. He moved on. He's like, I got a little needy in that moment. Like Justin,
well, I don't believe that Justin Baldoni, I don't know that I believe that Justin Baldoni was overly sensitive. Again, we're getting that from Blake.
Yes.
And in fact, everything that I see in Justin Baldoni's text to other people when it was not that he was insulted or offended, but just that he was desperate to try to figure out how to get this woman to lay off, because she wasn't just, Blake was not just putting in some critiques here and there or sharing her vision or criticizing Baldoni. She was basically harassing and bullying him into giving her everything that she wanted. And so I just think that where I see Baldoni making mistakes is not so much in being overly sensitive about criticism. I don't think that was the case. And in fact, the conversations between Blake and Baldoni that we've seen don't bear up that idea. I think where his error was in being weak, in being too kind, in acquiescing too much. And with a person like Blake, it's like a shark,
Well, that's what I'm saying. As director, he should have
blood.
As a director, his job was to be like, no, that's not
exactly
what we're doing. So, I mean, he does have to be held, obviously not the lawsuit and everything. This is all beyond that. But at the level of the film as it was getting made, he's like, look, this is my production company that's producing it. I am directing it. I am in charge. I appreciate your input, but we are doing this right now. And that sounds easy to do, especially if you have a naturally disagreeable personality. But it's another thing entirely. I saw somebody in the chat, it might have been Destroyer to All Trolls or Vamp Fashion, said he was basically a nothing burger and she had a track record. Yes, she did have more Hollywood clout than him, even beyond just being married to Ryan Reynolds. As an actress, she had more name recognition than him. I actually knew his wife more than I had seen his wife in more things than I saw him. Olivia loves the show Jane the Virgin, which is the only place I'd ever seen him in anything. And his wife was actually a pretty established network television actress for a period of time before he got bigger, you know, with his role directing and stuff like that. But it's very hard to say no to somebody with the clout of the girl who made Gossip Girls and married Ryan Reynolds.
It is hard to say no. And I think also, I think that if you look at the background of this film, Baldoni and Wayfarer, they tried very hard to even get Blake Lively to sign on to this, and they felt like when they got her to sign on, that was really a kind of a coup, that they had really lucked out. Like, wow, this is a more established actress than what we were expecting. This is a bigger star than we were expecting. This is great. And so I think they were coming at this already from a position of weakness.
Yeah.
It's like, we want to hold on to her. And so Baldoni thought that if he acquiesced to her at times, and same with Jamie Heath and Wayfarer, that if they acquiesced to her, then things would go smoothly and they could hold on to her, and that there'd be a net gain. Okay, we have to give a little bit here. We have to put up with some BS, but the net gain will be that we have a really successful movie. And by the way, they did end up having a successful movie.
The weird thing is if you think about it in the space of time, they wouldn't even have to have that question today because Colleen Hoover's name is so bankable that you can probably get any actress to sign. It's like Marvel for guys now. Like, Colleen Hoover's name will attract plenty of A-list actresses, much more known than Blake Lively.
Well, and to me, one of the ironies of this whole situation is that the actual film in question, it's really a terrible movie. It's just like I could barely even get through it. It's just a shitty movie. And so the fact that this shitty movie has generated so much controversy, has created basically a cottage industry of commentary like here, and then also made so much money. It made hundreds of millions. To me, that's also ironic. And so, you know, it ended up in a lot of ways being I'm sure Baldoni made a ton of money, you know, Blake did from it. But what a roller coaster it has been. But I think that was the miscalculation there with Baldoni and Wayfarer, was that, okay, we want to keep this woman on board, so we're going to give a little, and then, you know, she smelled blood in the water like a shark, and she just kept pushing and pushing. And then the other thing is, I think Blake realized pretty early on that she had a trump card to play, which is the Me Too trump card. And I mean, Trump isn't Donald Trump, but you know what I mean? So she had the Me Too card, and that's where the terrorist allegation comes in, because she was terrorizing Sony, threatening that if they did not pressure Baldoni to acquiesce to her demands, and if they did not acquiesce to her demands, and Baldoni did not give her the creative control that she wanted, then she was going to push these claims of sexual harassment, and she was going to take as she ended up doing, very innocuous acts by Baldoni and twist them into something bad and push that narrative. And look, this kind of thing, now that people have awakened to Me Too, to the BS that Me Too largely has been, I don't know if it would be as successful now, but this was peak Me Too era. And I think that she knew that all she had to do was claim harassment, and then they would roll over for her. And that, in fact, is largely what happened.
Yeah. So this was in the documents that were released about all of this stuff. It said Sony executives privately observed that the negative publicity around Lively was driven by her own conduct. On August 11th, 2024, it's Tara Grant. Seriously, Tara spelled Tahra. Bro, we've gone too far with the names. Tara Grant, VP and Chief Communications Officer at Sony, wrote, quote, she orchestrated all this drama in a totally unsavvy and amateur way and basically threatened Sony and now is mad it backfired on her. On August 2024, on August 15th, 2024, Tom Rothman, Sony CEO, observed that although Lively didn't deserve the backlash, she did bring it all on herself by refusing to listen to advice and by selling her products. On August 21st, 2024, Sony president Sanford, Panich, wrote, she did it to herself. If she just let him come to the premiere or didn't make all of the cast unfollow him or kick him off of the movie and did what everybody else has done in show business for time and memorial, which is to protect the show. So saying for as long as Hollywood has existed, your job is to protect the show, then none of this would have happened if she just done her job. The hair sell at the time was epic level stupid. She wouldn't listen. She knows better.
Yeah, the promotional stuff, her selling the various products was not helpful. But I mean, the main thing, and they're correct in noting that the main thing that kicked off this whole situation and all of the public gossiping and everything was the fact that she had him excluded from the premiere, the fact that she refused to be in the room for him during any of the promotional interviews or events, and the fact that she bullied the cast into unfollowing him. These were dead giveaways to people who were paying attention that there was tension on the set. And if she had not done these things, no one would have known, and she would have made a ton of money, and she would have come out of this being recognized as a brilliant businesswoman and back in the game fully in Hollywood and all of that. Like she did this to herself. But someone like Blake, just like an Amber Heard, cannot recognize their own contributions to these kinds of messes. And then, so yeah, it was completely self-induced error.
And then she was also reaching out to other celebrities, correct? Like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. What was up with that?
Well, so she had, as I said, she had her own cut of the film. Now, Baldoni, again, as the director, he should have had complete creative control. Blake was not a director. She was not an editor. As Shane Wilder noted in his comment, she really shouldn't have even gotten the production credit that she got, but she bullied and blackmailed Sony and Wayfarer into giving her that. But the point is, she was just supposed to be an actress on this thing. And so, but anyway, she did her own cut of the film, her own edit. And what happened was then you had two competing cuts of the film. You had the Baldoni cut and the Blake Lively cut. Well, Blake Lively was trying to push her cut, and Sony said to her, look, we've done test screenings. Your cut does not test as well with the audience as Baldoni's. And so this is what happened then. She did a screening of her own cut, and she wanted to use some celebrity friends of hers to help her push her cut. In other words, she wanted to be able to say, well, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, they've watched my cut of the film. They think it's great.
Yeah.
So that's what all of that was about, was trying to bring even more celebrities on board to basically bully Sony and Baldoni and Wayfarer into submission.
Yeah, it says Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively texted Matt and Lucy Damon asking them to support Lively's cut of the film. Reynolds told them Baldoni was a malignantly vain, sociopathic fominist. A malignantly vain feminist. I'm assuming that he means feminist.
Yeah, like faux feminist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, with almost no sense of boundaries or shame. I cannot believe he hasn't gone to jail. The same day Blake wrote Ben Affleck seeking his support, she described Baldoni as a chaotic clown director and said that there were wild HR issues on set. She also tried enlisting Anna Wintour and Bradley Cooper in her battle against. That's crazy.
It is definitely crazy. And if you want to know what Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively think of Baldoni, I'll just remind your audience, just look at the way that they depicted him in their superhero movie.
In Deadpool and Wolverine, yeah.
Yeah, so Deadpool and Wolverine, there is a character, I still haven't seen this movie because I don't like superhero movies, but there is a character called Nice Pool, and Nice Pool is
he's got ponytail. Yeah, he's got the ponytail.
Yeah, with the man, he's got the man bun, and he's very emotive, and he's pretends to be very sensitive, and all of these things. So he's basically a Baldoni caricature. And by the way, notice what happens to Nice Pool in that movie. He gets shot to death by Ladypool, by the Blake Lively character in front of a flower shop. And again, flowers, the flower shop was the setting for It Ends With Us. And so that's about as direct of a, they were trying to be wink, wink, indirect, but it's about as direct reference as you can get. And can I just say also, can you imagine if the situation were reversed and Baldoni did a movie in which he had a character that represented Blake Lively getting shot to death by him?
Yeah.
In other words, if Baldoni had put out a movie where he shoots Blake Lively's character to death, can you imagine? Talk about harassment and bullying. Can you imagine the outcry over that? And yet Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are allowed to stage a mock murder of Baldoni for laughs, and no one has a problem with that.
So we got a 20 here from Pop Culture Junkie. Says, I have it for, in Pop Culture Junkie is the inside source here at PCC.
Oh, yeah?
He's always got the details. He says, I have it from a good source. There was friction between Sony studio head Tom Rothman and Lively, especially over the timing of her hair care product launch. What time was that? Like, how close was that to the release? The hair care product launch?
I think it was almost simultaneous.
Oh my goodness. All right.
It was pretty close. And well, it's not just that. She had her line of alcohol too.
Well, is that different from Ryan Reynolds has his own too, right? Am I wrong about that?
I don't know that he does.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that.
Or is he the one that's sober and like his wife has an alcohol?
Well, Blake Lively is supposed to be sober too, but she also launched a line of alcohol. She initially launched a line of alcohol-free products.
Okay, that's what Tom Holland did. He launched like Beero or whatever, and it's like non-alcoholic beer.
So she initially launched a line of non-alcoholic products, but then she also launched a line of alcohol products, which I don't care, whatever. But yeah, so she had a lot going on in terms of her products. And look, personally, I don't think there was anything wrong with that. I think that it's totally okay to have a movie about a serious topic like domestic violence. And also, look, this is a business. You can also push your products. I don't have a problem with that. To me, the problem was the other missteps that she made in terms of having Baldoni cut from the premiere and sent to the basement, not being refusing to be associated with him for any of the promotional interviews or events, having the cast unfollow him. These were the things that were the dead giveaways to observers that there was a problem on the set and started all the gossip. And what Blake Lively did not anticipate is that people, because she has this mean girl reputation, people would look at Baldoni and they would look at her and they would say, well, she's the problem. She thought that people would look at that situation and would say, oh, well, clearly he's the problem. No, people figured out what the issue was.
It's weird because she talks about him being unprofessional and not knowing what he's doing. But one of the bare minimums you have to do as an actor is if you don't get along with your co-stars, you're going to have to go on the press tour together and fake it. It's just the way it is. All right, let's move on. So yesterday, guys, we talked about the Beckham family civil war because Brooklyn Beckham is getting married to Nicola Peltz, who is, of course, the daughter, which I did not know this until we did it yesterday, the daughter of Nelson Peltz, who tried to do that takeover there at Disney a couple years ago. To no avail, Bob Iger is actually going to be announcing his replacement in like the next month here. But Nicola Peltz is apparently proof that you're not ugly. You're just poor. Am I right?
You were absolutely right.
Tell us about it.
Do you have the pictures?
I do. Okay, so let's go. Actually, you know what? We got this 20 from Pop Culture Junkie first. Says, it sounds like Rothman wasn't happy with a lot of Sony's resources indirectly going to helping her launch the hair care products simultaneously with the film's release. Yeah, I don't blame him. All right, so yeah. I do have the photos here, so let's go ahead and pull these up here. This is the first one from Facebook.
Yeah, so... Look, I have nothing at all against plastic surgery. By the way, as you know, Brett, I am obsessed with skincare. I haven't had any plastic surgery because I can't afford it. If I did, I would. But I'm obsessed with skincare, and I think I look pretty good for 45-year-olds. I have no problem with people who can afford it getting interventions. But I will just say, this woman basically changed herself using billionaire daddy's money.
Her face was physically longer before.
Yeah, they can do everything to your face now. She changed herself from, I don't know what the audience would rank her, but, she was maybe just kind of a cute girl or whatever, to a knockout supermodel. And you can see here, I mean, someone's actually, I think that a plastic surgeon actually wrote all of the enhancements that he believed that she's had. But you can see that there have been many, many changes. And we're looking at something basically on the level of a Kylie Jenner
That's
transformation.
I thought it was Chloe was the one that looked like.
Well, they've all totally changed their faces, but I'm talking about Timothy Chalamet's girlfriend. And so we've got something here on the level of that. So, and again, I don't have a problem with it, but it is interesting that we have basically reached, I think, the point where Justin Timberlake movie, In Time. Did you ever see that movie?
I think you suggested it for me at one point, and I never got around to watching it.
I think it's actually a pretty good dystopic sci-fi movie. But the premise of this movie is that in the future, our currency will not be dollars. Our currency will actually be the amount of time that you can stay young.
Okay.
And so in the movie, I'll give you an example. In the movie, you have this very wealthy man who introduces Justin Timberlake to his sister, his mother, and his grandmother. He says, here's my sister, here's my mother, here's my grandmother. And they all look like they're 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And so I really feel like we are almost to that point where if you are wealthy enough, you can just stay 35 basically forever. And if you are an unattractive or just barely kind of cute, wealthy girl, you can turn yourself into an absolute supermodel.
Things are great, but they could be better, is what they're saying. And then you showed me this picture.
Yes. So this is Nicola Peltz's mother. So Brooklyn Beckham's wife, Nicola, the one who's causing all these problems. This is her mom. This is a recent picture that she posted. And by the way, it's not filtered because I have seen other photos of the mother just taken at events and stuff. This is what the woman looks like. Does the audience want to guess how old this woman is?
Let's see. Well, I mean, somebody's gonna look it up. But how old is she? We'll wait for the next 3 seconds to see if anybody responds, because they won't. After that, they'll have time to look it up. But I would be interested to know what people think, like how old they think she actually is. No answers. Everybody's going to look it up right now.
All right. Yeah. You want to know? This is a 70-year-old woman we're looking at.
70 years old.
And look, to people who will say, well, she looks kind of weird.
We got some answers. We got 48, 65, 48, 60, 55, 45, 48, 25, 58. We got nobody went as high as 70 though. Okay, finally at the end there, we got one from Eugene who says 99. I think I already said it though. I think I already said the actual age though.
Yeah, so 70. And look, people will say sometimes when I make a point like this, they'll say, well, she still looks kind of fake. Okay, dude, maybe she looks a little fake, but compare this picture with a normal 70-year-old woman. I can tell you this is better. So I'm not even going to listen to people. We have passed the point now of like, oh, but they look so fake. Give me a break. Any 70-year-old woman who can look like that would want to look like that. So we are basically at the Justin Timberlake movie where people who have financial means are going to be able to, at least in their exterior, stay young a long time. And I guess internally too, if you're on the Brian Johnson protocol or whatever.
And then there was, I thought about this. This was back like months ago. Martha Stewart at 84 or something.
Is that her?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Of course, again, you don't always know if you're looking at filters. That's why I said
somebody said she looks like Millie Bobby Brown. Well, I guess Millie Bobby Brown looks like her.
Oh Lord! By the way, I'm going to take off this wig. My hair.
Is it finally getting
my hair is going to look like absolute crap because it's had a wig on over it. But the wig's getting uncomfortable. So
that's okay. Go ahead. It is terrifying. Look, it's as a guy, it's not going to affect me the same way. The story, the way I've always told it on the show is that prior to plastic surgery, men grew into their faces in Hollywood and women grew out of their looks in a lot of ways. Like, because the roles that end up being meaningful for men, it's like you're a CEO, you're a CIA agent. They're roles that you naturally take in your 30s and then into your 40s, 50s, and 60s. A guy can look at it as like, okay, I'll play a teen, like, because I love this show Everwood. Chris Pratt looked weird. Okay, he looked weird when he was a teenager or in his early 20s, but he plays Chris Pratt the teenager, and then he gets to play Chris Pratt the superhero, and then now he's Chris Pratt the action star, much like a John Krasinski did. He was The Office, and then he's action star John Krasinski, and then later you settle into your role as president, where you can play presidents of the United States once you get into your 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah, I get the point. Can I just say though, Brett, I have never bought the wah feminist argument that women age out of good roles in Hollywood.
Well,
There
it's
are
not true
there
anymore. I mean,
Well, I don't think it's been true. I mean, there have always been roles for middle-aged and older women playing mothers, grandmothers, and
yes.
playing. But I think the thing is that women in Hollywood, they still want to be playing the more
Well,
youthful
that's just like
roles.
men get to grow into the roles that are cool.
Right,
Men
right.
grow into the roles that are cool, and women grow out of the roles that are cool for women.
That they would consider to be
And,
cool, I
and
guess.
the last, we did a topic one day. It's got to be over a year ago now, where Michelle Yeoh was complaining about this. I'm like, you just did everything everywhere all at once. You
Yeah,
get
no,
to do like
it's
you're not,
BS.
you have not been relegated to grandma roles. You get to
No,
do.
it's BS. I think there are tons of great roles, and I think that there have been for a long time. It's just that I think that it's an easy thing for women to complain about when what they really want to complain about is just that they don't have the sex appeal they used to have anymore. But now with the
Defeater in the chat mentioned Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson is one who like he hit his stride with like the Taken movies when he was already old enough to retire. He was already AARP Liam Neeson age when
Right.
Taken became, a hit franchise. And by the time Taken 3 came out, remember guys, there's that scene in like the third Taken movie where there's like 12 cuts to show him jumping over a fence because he's too old to jump over a fence at that time.
Yeah,
Life's not fair. And like they tried to do something similar with like Jennifer Garner when she did Peppermint, which I actually think was a good movie, but a guy playing like the 70-year-old action star already stretches the bounds of credibility,
Right.
but you can let it pass.
Right.
Like if you see a woman in her 70s or 80s with gray hair doing it, no one's gonna buy it, and that's
Right.
okay. That's
Right.
okay.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And of course, now, with plastic surgery interventions, that women before long, women not too long from now, they'll be able to, I guess, play whatever roles they want to play.
Well, they're gonna
anyway.
they're gonna turn themselves into AI avatars, and then they'll be able to play 20-year-olds forever. Look,
Well, that's true.
do you think that the plastic surgery trend in Hollywood is gendered in who it benefits? Because I think it benefits both of them.
Yeah, I do not think it is. Well, only maybe it benefits women more just to the extent that I do believe that women are judged more on their looks. I'm not saying that in a complaining way, but I mean it even to the point where, I mean, I think that even in the dating world, men tend to care more about looks than women, which is not to say that they're more superficial. There are other things you could say that some women care about, status or what have you. But I think just to the extent that women tend to be appreciated more for their looks generally than men. I mean, look, a handsome man is going to turn a lot of heads, and there are people like Brad Pitt and stuff who've gotten very far on their sex appeal. I'm not denying that it matters, but I do think it benefits, these kinds of interventions benefit women more to the extent that women are judged more for their looks. But I agree with you. I think it's equal across the board, and that's why you see men getting just as much plastic surgery and these kinds of dermatological interventions as women. I mean, Brad Pitt looks fabulous for his age. I can damn well promise you that he's gotten a lot of stuff done. I can damn well promise you that 90%, including Liam Neeson, 90% of the male Hollywood actors out there are getting some kind of
Oh, yeah.
dermatological interventions.
The funny thing about it is I was kind of talking with people on X last night about this because I had this post. I mentioned it earlier in the show where I mentioned that Paul Walker had this ability to smile in a way that reaches his eyes that actually brings you further into the story. You buy more into what his character is doing because the smile feels genuine. And I believe that Jennifer Love Hewitt has that same ability. And I do think it's rare. As weird as that sounds, I think the ability to give a ingratiating smile that encapsulates what a character is feeling isn't the most common thing in the world. And that will be even less common now, as it's pointed out in the comments, as Botox becomes more prominent at younger ages for people.
Well, but Botox is again, people only notice these kinds of things, whether they're talking about Botox or plastic surgery, when it's badly done. Everyone's getting this stuff now, so I can guarantee you that a lot of the actors that your audience think are not having Botox, they are. It's you only notice the frozen faces when it's badly done or too much is done. But I think actually people are backing away from using Botox. I think as much as it was being used, I think it really reached its high point, its zenith, probably about I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, because now there are just so many other ways to achieve results without that. I mean, the facelifts now, particularly the under the muscle facelifts or whatever, they've gotten so good that, I mean, I'm not even sure you really need as much Botox or filler as you used to. I
What
mean,
is
you
the
can.
they were talking about, like, it was Lindsay Lohan has the magical facelift that completely changed her face, so that she went to that doctor recently.
She's done probably multiple interventions of various kinds. I mean, she's a great example, though. We were looking at Nicola Peltz or talking about Kylie Jenner. Lindsay Lohan is another one. If you look at her, if you look at the way that she looked, say, 10, 15 years ago, she looked completely ragged out, years of doing
Drugs will do that to
drug,
you.
well, and a lot of drinking. People always give drinking a pass, but alcohol.
Well, you get bloated from it.
Well,
too.
no, it's alcohol is terrible. People like I don't like alcohol, and so I kind of get on my soapbox about this. But alcohol is a major carcinogen. It causes advanced aging. It's just as bad as any illegal drug. I mean, I will die on that hill. It is. It's just it gets a pass. But anyway, Lindsay Lohan, you had an alcoholic who was using stimulants and who also was just living a really rough life. You look at pictures of her from, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, she looks totally ragged out, horrible. Now she looks like she's like fresh as the morning dew. She could pass for 25. This is how good dermatology and plastic surgery have gotten. And again, it just reinforces the idea you're not ugly, you're poor.
And it's a bad thing too, because it means that as long as you've got money, you can walk back all the mistakes you make, right? Like it doesn't encourage you to live well, because you're like, look, I'll fuck everything up in my 20s, and then I'll fix it in my 30s when the magic doctor comes in and gives me the Lindsay Lohan facelift and stuff like that.
By the way, on the comments, Mars Monkey Max, I don't know why she was wearing a wig. Her hair looks great. Well, thank you, but the wig was not. By the way, the wig was just to be. This is my Blake Lively wig. So if you missed at the beginning, we were talking about this. This is the wig that I wear sometimes to impersonate or to make fun of Blake Lively, because this is one reason I do it is just because it's blonde. But the running joke that some of us Blake Lively haters have is that she has a line of hair care products, but her own hair is usually frizzy. Blake Lively has some kind of inexplicable love for frizzing out her hair, and so even in her advertisements for her hair care products, her hair looks weirdly frizzy, and a lot of us were wondering why that is. Well, we know the answer. She just thinks it looks good because she did a promotional video for her hair care products where she fixed the hair of a model. So she had a beautiful model there and she was using her hair care products. Well, the model starts out with beautiful hair and Blake Lively comes in with like her comb and her pick and she's like, okay, but we just need to mess it up a little bit. And so then she makes it frizzy and it looks terrible. And next time I come on here, I'm going to bring some pictures from Blake Lively's hair care line, her advertisements, where she's got this inexplicably frizzy hair. She just thinks frizzed out hair looks good now. It's so bizarre.
And you don't just have a Blake Lively character that's much lauded after. You also have your very own CIA, or like, I love that character. I think we reacted to that one on the show.
I need to bring that one back. Well, and I'm not sure if you ever saw this, but I also did a little tribute to you and Mary in that I did the CIA character actually talked about you all in a video. I can't remember what that was pertaining to. I think we
reacted to it like off air, and Mary's like, I love Colonel Kurtz.
But yeah, the CIA character, I'll try to post it below in your comments when I get off. But that was a character that I introduced after the Johnny Depp Amber Heard fiasco or situation, because Amber Heard's team had basically found the supposed former spy that was asserting that Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, they accused him of basically using his government, his spy network, to flood the internet with pro Johnny Depp comments on Twitter.
Because he's just a huge fan of Sweeney Todd or something?
I apparently so the accusation was that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia had become best buddies, BFFs with Johnny Depp when Johnny Depp visited the Red Sea
It
Film
is
Festival a
true.
year or two ago.
It is true that Saudi Arabia loves old school American entertainment. Like, there's a reason why WWE has like a gazillion-dollar contract with Saudi Arabia, and whenever they go there, they just drag out the ancient wrestlers because they love that era of American pop culture. Like, they love the old days.
And by the way, people are allowed to be friends with people. I wouldn't have a problem with if the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia was BFFs with Johnny Depp. But so anyway, but you had this series, this podcast series by the journalist Dimitri Mostros, I think it was his name, and he had found a supposed former spy who would not go on the record, of course. His identity was obscured, but this person claimed that he had analyzed all of these posts flooding Twitter X during the trial in support of Johnny Depp, and he saw clear signs of bot manipulation and theorized that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia had basically mobilized his own version of the CIA, the Saudi CIA, to flood the zone with pro Johnny Depp comments.
The whole world is a house of cards now. It really is. All right. Let's go through some super chats, guys. We will go through them. If we have time at the end, we may want to talk about this comment that Chris Pratt made. He's on the press tour right now for Mercy, which looks like, as I keep saying, it is the most January movie that has ever been made.
What do you mean? I saw that. What do you mean by that?
January is traditionally where Hollywood goes to dump the movies that they have zero faith in. So it looks like the most generic action movie. Now, people mistake my comment about that to say that I wouldn't like it. No. Everybody knows that I love a good, dumb action flick. However, it's about like you're convicted of a crime by an AI judge and you have to use it. Like, Hollywood doesn't know how to write around the concept of AI anymore because they're so terrified of it. So it's not, this seems like the closest to actual fun writing of AI, whereas everything else is some generic up their own ass version of a think piece about what they think the technology is. It's no fun anymore. The days of Terminator are long gone. But let's go through some super chats, and if we got the time, we will check that out. So, and guys, we are I should have mentioned before the show today, Chris is actively working on fixing the crisis meter right now, so we may not have it till tomorrow, but I do believe we will get at least one crisis party before the day is over. I will trigger it manually. So here we go from Shane H. Wilder. He says, "Happy Wednesday, Kurtz and Dasovic." Wow, he named Kurtz first. You are officially part of the family over here. Happy Wednesday, Kurtz and Dasovic. With the winter storm hitting across the U.S. this weekend, it might be time to rewatch The Day After Tomorrow. I love that movie. I haven't watched that in years.
Can I just say, I love a disaster flick. I was going to say a good disaster flick, but I even love the bad ones like Geostorm. But I've always I grew up in Tornado Alley in East Texas. And
Did you watch Twister growing up?
What's that?
Did you watch Twister?
Oh, Twister and all kinds of documentaries and stuff. And I actually, for a while, I wanted to be a storm chaser. And I still would like to do a little storm chasing tourism if I can afford it one day. If you pay enough money, you can actually go around with people like the characters in Twister. You can accompany them. But I remember I looked into it, and it was going to be something like $1,000 a week or whatever. And you're not guaranteed to see a tornado, too. You know? So, but anyway, point is, I love disaster movies. The Day After Tomorrow is a great one because there's such a range of weather in that. So, you know, it's like it's freezing, but then it's also hot. And you've got tornadoes and hurricanes. There's a lot going on. So.
Lots of practical sets in that movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, like they're in like the library or whatever, and they're swimming through. Like that stuff was great.
That's right.
I also need to give Colonel Kurtz her flowers right now because it was her that initially had high hopes for Twisters, and I was like, I don't know about all that. And it ended up being like my favorite movie of the year.
You liked it better than I did.
Yeah.
See, I was kind of disappointed in the sequel. I liked the first one better. Did you ever see the first one?
Yes. I mean,
liked
obviously
the second better?
No, not better. I don't even think of them as the same movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like even the making of movies these days is so vastly different. I do think that they kind of they spiked the ball too early at the end by not having him kiss her at the airport. It's like, what are we scared of here? Are we really that scared that they're going to have some type of actual connection? I liked it. I thought the movie was unapologetically syrupy in a good way. I enjoyed it quite a bit. All right.
Well, that's cool.
Man Bear Cow TV says Soapy, that's in quotes, has been making death threats in Tim's private Discord and calling Tim's female cast members e-thoughts. Who wants to work in that environment? Well, I don't know
this whole controversy. What's this about?
I don't know either. I don't spend much time in the Discord, but Soapy should not be doing that, and I denounce making those comments. It's not nice. Brian Bledsoe says should be able to get out of Texas tomorrow morning to get to DC for the March for Life, but now we'll stay there over the weekend before going back. Yeah, you'll probably have to because of the weather coming up. It's not going to be a pleasant one this weekend. I'm sure driving back for me on Sunday night isn't going to be problematic at all. I'm sure it's going to be great. Psych. Shane H. Wilder says, safe travels, Brian. Dress warm because it's going to be a bit chilly out here, although I think tomorrow will be the warmest day of the week. Yeah, it's not that bad right now. But I was saying before, I think February out here is worse than January, whereas in Minnesota, I think January is worse than February. Wodenshot says Al Pacino mispronounces Ocala in The Recruit. You're in good company, Brett. Just never let it happen again. Well, I don't know if I let it happen again because I don't know how to pronounce it. The closest I can think of to actually hearing somebody say Ocala or Ocala was like Jesse in Burn Notice said it in season 4 when there was like an episode where there was somebody in prison, or season 5. That's the last time I heard anybody say that name.
We had thought about talking about Al Pacino on this episode.
Oh yeah, because he's back out with his baby mama.
He might be back together with his baby mama, Noor Alfallah. Of course, he's in his 80s. He recently had this last year. I think it was this last year. Yeah, he had a baby with Noor Alfallah, a very wealthy Beverly Hills producer, wealthy in her own right, by the way, from inherited money, not from the guys that she dates, but she apparently has a penchant for she doesn't have a daddy complex. It's like, I guess, a granddaddy complex. She has a history of and a penchant for dating men who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Who was it before him?
Well, she had dated Clint Eastwood.
That's who it was, yeah.
And I think at that point he was in his late 80s when they dated. She dated Clint Eastwood. She had dated Nicholas Berggruen, who was in his mid-60s, a very wealthy businessman. She dated recently Bill Maher, I believe. And so again, more power to her if people are attracted to what they're attracted to. But yeah, she had a baby with Al Pacino. I don't know what's happened with Al Pacino and his dressing style. I get a lot of shit on Twitter for criticizing women at times for their appearance. Again, like, it's not something that I do more than anything else, but sometimes I'll see women, with dressing a certain way, looking a certain way, and I'll be like, what's up with this? But Al Pacino, he used to have a lot of class and a lot of style. But nowadays, when you see him out and about, his favorite outfit is to wear a long stained black shirt, often has stains on it. and yeah, that's a pretty good Actually, I've seen him. Actually, that's him looking good. I've seen him looking worse than that. But he likes to wear generally beat up sneakers, a long black ill-fitting coat, baggy black sweatpants, and either a plain black T-shirt or a black sweatshirt.
That one?
Yeah, that's a pretty good representation. The jacket is nice.
He looks like he's dressed to be a doorman who's a foot taller than him.
That is how he likes to dress, big baggy stuff. Which, look, I guess when you get to be that point, it's like, what else is there to prove? I've won a bunch of Oscars. I've had a bunch of women. I'm wealthy. I'm popular. Like, I guess whatever. But his style is it leaves much to be desired.
I mean, you know what? When you got the money, he's like, so what? I'm gonna dress like a New York City doorman in the '90s, and it's gonna be for a dude who's a foot taller than me. That's what this looks like to me. That's okay. It's so funny. I was thinking back to Day After Tomorrow about how you can't make climate propaganda now because it's too sore of a subject. But climate propaganda at that time was fantastic because he had just given a speech about climate change, and then like the next day the climate changed. Like, literally, he's like, I wasn't thinking today. I was thinking like in 100 years.
Well, the thing that I
Did
never
Al
understand.
Gore produce that movie? I wonder if Al Gore produced that
I don't
movie.
think he did. But I do think he made a public comment that he approved of it. I think what Al Gore said about it was that the timeline was off. In other words, you were not actually going to see these kinds of dramatic changes happen that rapidly, but that it was a good way of showing people what over time was going to happen. I always though agree with those who say that it makes no sense and it is total hypocrisy for celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Gore and others to be so publicly invested in environmentalism and climate change propaganda, but then at the same time they take private jets everywhere. They're on their private jets, they're on their yachts, they are burning up a ton of fuel and putting a ton of carbon into the air. I don't understand that. I mean, if you're Leonardo DiCaprio and one of your main priorities in life is climate change, how can you with a straight face, how can you take all these jets and these yachts everywhere? I just don't understand.
I think they believe they're the anointed class. I think they say it's okay because I'm here to raise awareness for it.
Right.
I don't think
BS.
I don't think that hypocrisy would even sway them, even just a little bit.
No, I mean it clearly doesn't. But it to me it's just so ridiculous. You know you can fly commercial. You know you don't have to be out on all those yachts. You know whatever.
Yeah. Shane H. Wilder says, if you aren't subscribed to the PCC extended family channels, are you even a real crisis actor? We have extended family channels?
I was going to say I didn't know about that.
Wow, I didn't know that. Shane H. Wilder says, Lively is listed as a producer, Producers Guild of America. Only reason she has the PGA mark is because everyone acquiesced to everything she wanted.
Yes. This was one of the few things actually that Baldoni and Wayfarer tried to resist and they showed some backbone about, but they ended up being worn down.
How did they try to resist? Like, what was that like?
Well, I think they told her at first that they weren't going to do it. Because it just wasn't deserved. Now there was also there were two types of producer credits too. There was and I can't remember exactly. I think she was always going to be an executive producer, which it sounds like that's very prestigious, but that's actually less prestigious than a normal producer because executive producer just means you threw some money at it, whereas producer it means you're actually like in there doing production work or overseeing production. But anyway, I can't remember which it was, but there was a credit that she was already going to get that they did not mind or resist. Maybe it was the executive producer, but then there was another credit. I think this is what Wilder is talking about that she demanded, and they really resisted it. Baldoni and Wayfarer and Sony because it just was not deserved. Because normally the people who have that credit are doing certain tasks that had not been assigned or allotted to Lively, and so they did resist that, but and that's the thing too. Once again, that Justin Baldoni, if I could impart any lesson to him or say to him, this is what you need to learn from the situation, he really needs to develop his Freudian id. And because he does not have it. He's a nice guy and he's spiritual and he's got all that going for him. But you do in life, this world is, if you're a Christian, which I'm not, but Christians understand the saying that this is a fallen world. And to make it in this world, you have to have an id. You have to have a bit of the animal in you. You have to stand up for yourself. You do have to have some ego. Otherwise, people are just going to run over you. And I don't think that he learned that. I hope he has now.
Yep. Greg Duvier says, if I didn't watch this show, I would have never knew that Nice Pool was a caricature of Justin Baldoni. I wouldn't have either until I read about it.
That's it is.
Absolutely true. Shane H. Wilder says, let me make sure I didn't miss anyone. Yes. Shane H. Wilder says, I should note that a producer with a Producers Guild of America mark means that they played a central decision-making role on the creation of a film.
Yes. That's what was under contention there, and what Baldoni and Wayfarer and Sony were resisting that Blake was demanding.
Moon at Noon says curve toll. I don't know what that means. And Bobman says mushrooms, Swiss or bust, Kurtz.
What does that mean?
I don't know. You'd have to ask
Mushroom, Swiss or bust?
Yeah. And then says Colonel. I'm assuming the COL means Colonel unless it's colander. I don't know what else that would be.
Well, you know what's funny is, and no offense to your audience if this is true for some of them, but I've been amazed at how many people don't know what Colonel means or what Colonel signifies. I've had so many people tell me, oh, what a lovely name. I've never heard that before.
Wait, they think that your actual name is Colonel?
They think, yes, they think that
I, in
Colonel
today's
is a
day and
name.
age, unfortunately, with the unruly way in which we allow people to be named, first of all, it's like I always go back. It's like the day we started allowing Brett to be spelled with one T, we really lost all semblance of hope when it came to naming. Even the guy in the chat earlier on Rumble who was dunking on me at least called me Brat with two T's, and I appreciated that he didn't call me Brat with one T.
I think the thing with Colonel too is that it is spelled in a weird way. I mean, the
Colonel,
Colonel, and so I think some people who have not seen it used in a military sense, they look at it and they think, yeah, they think it's the name is Colonel, and so so anyway, that's something. It's kind of it's been kind of unexpected. You know, if I had it to do over again, this is not Colonel Kurtz is not the name that I would have used. What happened, as I've said before, is that I didn't think that my channel was going to be successful. And so it started off, when I started this, it was truly just a little hobby for me. I thought that it would take me years to even get 1,000 followers. And so what happened was I went with that name because it was one of my favorite characters, right? Apocalypse Now, my favorite movie. And so it reached a point then when I started to get a following and got monetized and everything. And it was like, well, I wish I could change this, but then I already have this brand, and so I just kind of stuck with me.
You didn't? Do you ever think now where you're like, I could have, you know, it would have been hard, but a year in after the success, you could have changed it and then just gone with it?
Yeah, I could have, and I mean, I maybe I should have. I mean, I could even, I guess, do it now.
Do you keep your first name? You keep your first name off the internet, right? For the most part.
I don't make an effort to. I mean, I tell hosts at times that they can call me Kristen if they want to.
Because I say, like, you could change it to Kristen Kurtz.
Yeah, well, at that point, then it's just like kind of a random
you're
name.
Like an actor with your own screen name, or
with
your own pen name.
I do like. I mean, I do like the association with Apocalypse Now for those who know it. But the irony is, like, is for a lot of people, that's the only association that they'll ever have. I can aspire one day to eclipse Marlon Brando's character in notoriety, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could only hope, right? All right, let me go back up here, make sure I didn't lose anything. Shane H. Wilder says, okay, I see the Whataburger cup. What's your order? I didn't see that.
It was a Whataburger Junior. And let me just say, this is a sore point for people who are native Texans, because Whataburger used to be the pride and joy of Texas. It was a Texas company, started in Texas, but it got bought out like a couple of years ago by a Chicago company.
Was it like a venture capital company?
Yeah, it is technically based now out of Chicago, even though it is it originated in Texas, as a Texas staple. So
you got the Junior. Whataburger's not one that I've done.
Have you ever had Whataburger?
I've done In-N-Out. I've never done Whataburger. If I have, I was drunk and I don't remember it.
Well, it's probably where you live. I don't know if you have them.
No,
there.
It would have been during it's in California, right? Is it in California?
It probably is in California now.
If I had, it would have been
Texas,
in California. I might have had it. I've been to Texas a couple of times, and I don't remember any. You know, it was definitely one of those ones where you were trying to eat local.
I actually had the cops visit my house after a Whataburger trip when I was in high school. Everybody has, I guess, their hoodlum moment in high school. And so I went with a few friends of mine, a couple of guys and another girl. We went to Whataburger. I think I was like 18, 19. Maybe it was like actually when I was already in college. But we went to a Whataburger in my hometown, and Whataburgers can take a notoriously long period of time to get your order out. I think they've gotten a lot better, but we were sitting there. It was late at night, and we waited. I think it was an hour, and they still not brought the food out. And so the two guys.
An hour?
It was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous amount of time.
That's not even sit down restaurant time.
And we would go and we would ask. We would go to the counter and we would ask the ladies, and it gives some women there, and they were being bitches about it. They would roll their eyes. It's coming out when it's coming out, or whatever. Well, so the two guys that we were with, my friend and I, being teenagers, as we've all been, they decide that they're going to take their retribution out on the Whataburger. And now my friend and I didn't even know this was going on. we just knew they had disappeared. They went to the condiments section. There was a little, section with like the, drink stuff and condiments and ketchup. And they completely emptied out everything into the trash. I mean, this was vandalism, basically. They emptied out everything into the trash, poured the tea into the trash, ripped open the ketchups and all this. Now, we didn't know this was going on. My friend and I, because we're just like sitting in a different part of the restaurant, we're not paying attention. Well, all of a sudden, my guy friends come running up to us. They're like, we've got to get out of here now. And so we're like, what? So we run out. Well, we get into the car, my car, by the way, or I should say my parents' car. We speed away. My friend and I, still not knowing what this is about. We just know that we're told we have to get out of here fast. Well, they tell us what they've done. We're like, oh, okay. Well, anyway, we were out. I think we went somewhere else to get some food. We come home and we see a cop car in the driveway.
Product of a misspent youth, absolutely.
And it turns out that these nice ladies at the Whataburger counter had gotten the license plate and had shown up at my parents' house. No. Now, by the way, my parents at this point did not even know that I was drinking, because I had been a goody two-shoes all up until college. I was one of those like cliches, Southern Baptist, virginal East Texas girl, wasn't allowed to date really, even didn't drink or whatever, go to college and start partying some, right? So my parents at that point did not even know. I was like home visiting from college. They didn't even know that I was drinking at that point. So their introduction to my new self
through law enforcement
was through law. And what's funny is I still remember my mom. She opens the door because I guess the cop was like inside. She opens the door and she screams at me, "You drunkard!"
Oh, does she still call you that sometimes to get back at you? Does you ever come home and she's like,
no, now she's never seen me drunk, but now she just laughs about it. But here's what really sucked is that the cop had made a deal with the Whataburger owner that we would not get arrested. It was going to be like a misdemeanor or whatever. We would not get arrested or whatever if the next day we went up there and we apologized to the staffers who'd been there, which if we were all pissed off because those staffers, they didn't deserve what happened, or the Whataburgers didn't deserve it, but they had been so rude and everything to us anyway. So I'll never forget the feeling of having to go in there and apologize and these women just smirking at us.
I had a friend who got caught stealing a Menin. When you go to a movie and they've got the big poster, like the cardboard cutouts for the movies.
Yes.
A friend of mine got caught stealing like the Men in Black cardboard cutout of all the movies. Will Smith was a big deal at that time.
Yeah. Those cutouts could be really cool, actually.
I still remember the first time. So 28 or 29 years of skating means I've had more than a few run-ins with the law, as it is known to happen when you skate. And the very first time it happened, my mom and my dad, it was like right after my parents had split up, and I would spend half my time with my mom and half my time with my dad. And of course, my mom was a lot less strict than my dad was. And so both of them went to work early. So, when dad goes to work early, goes to bed early, I'm like, I have to stay in my room because I was very young, read books, whatever, stay up late.
Right.
When my mom would go to bed early, I would literally leave the house and go skate at the local church at like midnight. I was like 12 years old, and a cop was driving by, and of course is like, absolutely like, why is a 12-year-old out here by himself on a school night? And had to bring me home, and my mom was mortified because, she basically is like, let the guy in. She's like, you never let the cops in without a warrant.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that kind of free range parenting has really gotten a bad rap. Of course, because it used to be that the attitude was much more like it was healthy for kids to be out and about. I wanted to address one thing here because I get this sometimes. Someone in the comments, Nick Browning, said, "How come East Texans do not have a Southern accent as a Canadian?" I'm asking. So I guess what he's saying is he does not think that I have a pronounced Southern accent. So I will say this. I do not speak like a typical native East Texan. I made an effort to lose the accent, years and years ago, to lose it as much as possible. But yes, definitely thick Southern accents here in East Texas, and it comes out a little. You can hear a twinge here and there, and I say y'all a lot, but no, I'm not typical. The way that I speak is not typical. But I will say this also. I have noticed that as technology has improved and we have the internet now, I do think that the effect of the internet, one of the effects is that it really is leveling out accents, the differences in accent a lot.
People don't. I mean, it's all disappearing and turning into generic.
Because we're all hearing, yeah, exactly. So we're all like, so it used to be that the region that you grew up in, you were pretty much limited to hearing that accent, those dialects, right? I mean, you might watch some TV or watch some movies, but in general, you were hearing your regional accent pretty much all the time.
There's still a difference in that in my family, where my brother and my dad have noticeably more Minnesotan accents than I do, and I still do. It still comes out in some words, which I get made fun of when I say them, but in general, it's not there. Bag is the one. It's bag. In general, mine is less noticeable than a lot of people who grow up in the Midwest, especially if they're older, prior to the internet, where accents, kind of turned everybody into a generic monotone.
And I would expect that we will see that leveling out, that uniformity more and more as you have more and more internet consumption and access by younger and younger people, right?
By the way, thank you to everybody who might be tuning in that's new. Cecil rated the stream over on Rumble, so thank you guys so much for doing that. You're catching us here at the end of the show. We're basically just shooting the shit now. Manic Mustache says, Whataburger has an inferior burger, we need commas, ladies and gentlemen. Whataburger has an inferior burger, and In-N-Out's animal-style fries are overrated.
I said it. By the way, I hate In-N-Out. Really? I think, speaking of overrated, I hate their burgers. But anyway,
do you have a favorite?
Well, I actually do think that Whataburger for fast food, for generally fast food, I think Whataburger is my favorite, honestly. Okay. So I would be interested to know, why he doesn't like Whataburger.
I saw somebody in the chat mention Five Guys. Five Guys is fine. I do like the Five Guys fries more than most, but I don't, I'm not rich, so I can't afford Five Guys on a regular basis. I've actually pointed out, so the place where I go, where I get my haircut is right next. It's right between a Little Caesars and a Five Guys, and there is a socioeconomic gap between these two stores, because after I come out of the Little Caesars, I look over at the Five Guys, and I'm driving my 2008 Toyota Camry, and this guy's driving an Escalade or something like that. There is a large gap in your ability to pay from the guys going to Five Guys on a regular basis than to people like me who understand the beauty that is Little Caesars, which is still an
Little
amazing.
Caesars are good.
Yeah, I will not take. There will be no Little Caesars slander on this channel. You will get banned immediately. Shane H. Wilder says, West Texas born and bred. I can say that I have lost most of my accent. It does come out every once in a while. So I'm assuming that comes out maybe more when you're when you're tired or something like that.
Well, I think it's just the level of formality. So if what we're doing right now, I have much less of an accent, or when I used to teach, when I was a teacher, as opposed to, I would say it's more of how casual am I feeling. Also, let me just say too, East Texas, this area, you also tend to have some Cajun accents as well, because my family is mostly from South Louisiana, and so I was born and raised here in East Texas, but there's definitely, my mom has kind of a Cajun accent. My grandparents really did. My mom, she'll pronounce, for instance, my mom will pronounce, my grandfather and grandmother would pronounce mayonnaise as mayonnaise. Would you pass the mayonnaise?
I don't think there's any word. Granted, most people don't understand whether they pronounce words weird or not anyways, but I don't think there's any of the words that I pronounce that necessarily come out that way. It's I think for the most part my accent is pretty much gone just from it probably is honestly the internet that's done it for most of us. I think that's the way that it is for me. Absolutely, 100%. In the chat, Mike says Little Caesars is literally cancer on crust. Well,
well, you can say that about a lot.
The thing is, though, man, is I'm not a Maha person, so I don't have to pretend to want to drink.
That's right.
Drink whole milk or raw milk or whatever all that stuff is. The best thing I had going for me, and I was mentioning this to Kurtz off stream, was I cut out the flavored water, which had something in it which made my face puff up because I lost about 20 pounds once summer came around last year, just because I had quit soda like the year before, just because eventually all the sugar is going to catch up with you and you're going to freaking get diabetes.
Soda is a continuing struggle of mine. I mean, in fact, even like, right now, it's something that I have almost completely cut out, but I would say a couple of times a week I still give in. It's hard to cut out. It's just so great. It's not only the sugar hit that you're getting, but that carbonation, the carbonation with the sugar.
That's what so now I cut out the flavored water by just drinking sparkling water, just water with bubbles is the only thing that I drink.
Yeah.
I will drink I will drink like a soda every once in a while. And the terrifying thing is, and I'm not even kidding you, I will get a noticeable sense of calm after the first sip. The same way you do.
It's a drug. Sugar is a drug. No.
But the thing is, it's not like I eat candy and I don't get that feeling. But if
there's just so much sugar in a soda.
so much soda that I will noticeably feel it afterwards. So I can't, I bought a bottle the other day. I took one sip and had to throw it out. Waste the money.
Sugar is a drug. When my mom went through a period of serious clinical depression, and she's fine with me sharing this, but I mean, she's very open about it, but she had to be hospitalized for a month. And anyway, but when she was in that depression, she would, every morning when she got up, she would get a Frappuccino loaded with extra like chocolate and whipped cream and stuff. And she said that after she would drink it, she would feel a noticeable psychological high from it. And so it's definitely, it's triggering the same stuff.
Yep. So now I have to just avoid it at all costs otherwise. And I don't want to put the 20 pounds back on. So Broody Gambit over on Rumble says, I love Cookout from North Carolina. You used to get a tray with a double burger, corn dog, fries, and drink for $5. It's maybe up to $8 now. That's still not that bad depending on the size of
not with inflation now.
Many nights in high school and college spent there. Yes. Well, I mean, it's actually a privilege to live somewhere with like a really good local restaurant that isn't a chain that you might have like memories of, because that's one of the things that's missing about Americana in a lot of ways, is like when you think of that old image of like the 1950s Americana, and I know that a lot of this has been picked over by the Busfields and the pop culture retrospectives and stuff like that, but you do think of the people at the diner, at somebody at a diner or one of those drive-ins where you can drive in and get the food delivered directly to your car. That was an image for American culture before all of the restaurants got either bought out and put out of business or turned into a chain by venture capital.
Yeah.
And I kind of hate that. Like, in a lot of ways, I understand that it's kind of the way of the world and you can't escape it anymore. And I really do. Like, my most communist take is that like venture capital is ruining a lot of the businesses in this country, because once they own them, there's no need for them to keep up the quality that made that brand popular beforehand. You could make the argument that that's what's happening in healthcare. You can understand that we have top shelf American healthcare while having an absolute awful healthcare system here, where once these hospitals are bought up by venture capital, all of their productivity goes down and the service goes down and everything gets worse. But that's not to say that I want government intervention in any of these things, but I can acknowledge the problem as it is.
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of legitimate critiques of our economic system, of capitalism, of corporatism, and it is a mistake for people to think that just because you're against communism or you're against socialism or you think one system is superior to another, that there are not still legitimate critiques. Nothing is perfect. Everything is far from perfect. Yeah. And so to me, that's the sign of an intellectually lazy or closed mind, that people cannot admit that there are a number of legitimate critiques of everything.
There was this great video that Clownfish TV did a couple of months ago where it was just like, everything is worse, you're not imagining it. And it's true, right? Like, You can't call for help anymore when you have a problem with a product. You'll never reach an actual person. Amazon now, it's not like you talk to an actual person. They'll just give you a refund because they make so much money. They're like, oh, you didn't get your product? Don't bother showing us proof. We'll just refund you the money. But if you have an actual complaint that needs to be addressed by a human being, it's going to take you 10,000 tries, and the person you're going to talk to is going to be someone named Sam from India, and you won't be able to understand a word they're saying. That's just the world we live in now because of the structure of corporatism in a lot of ways. So we went off on a tangent here at the end, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today, new and old. If you joined us over on Rumble from Cecil Stream, thank you so much, and thank you so much for doing that for us. We appreciate it. I want to remind you guys, we will be off on Thursday and Friday this week because I will be out of town. I've got family business going on. Whether the storm that's supposedly supposed to hit us over the weekend happens or not will dictate whether there will be a show on Monday. All things considered, I'm hoping that the storm isn't as bad as they say and that we make it back in one piece so that we can put the show on back on Monday because I want to get back to our regularly scheduled program. It has been so great to be back live with you guys 5 days a week. I actually do dislike it when we get the time off. It feels like I'm missing out to be able to talk to you guys. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And Kurtz, thank you.
Thank you. And everybody can check out my channel. And my work is actually on all major platforms, but my handle is Colonel Kurtz. There's that name again, Colonel. You have to look it up if you don't know it. But Colonel Kurtz, Kurtz, Colonel Kurtz 99. So you can look me up on YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And again, that's going to be Colonel Kurtz 99. And also check out Brett's wife's channel, Olivia Dasovic, and we'll be posting some more stuff there too.
Perfect. Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. This show is here usually 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you would like to listen to the audio version of this podcast, you can also rate and review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, which is a great way to help the channel out. And if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will be back, hopefully, with another episode on Monday. We'll see y'all then. Bye, guys.
Bye.